Welcome to Self Perfected.
Boom. Nice.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying, man. That was
Shut
so
up.
funny. You're right. Do you love those podcasts where it's like it starts and like they're already like talking about something?
I don't know. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I'm annoyed because I'm like, what the fuck were they talking about? Like, tell me what you guys are just talking about. Yeah.
So,
Um,
last day of the year.
Last day of the year is today. It's today. When this comes out, it won't be today anymore, but yeah,
Oh shit. Well, but if you're watching it live,
which I'm sure there are diehard fans.
of course, we don't announce when we're gonna do it, and we always vary the time we're gonna do it at. So it's like a
It's like you just got to be there. You just had to be there.
like you got to really be paying attention.
Got to be prepared.
It's
That's
like
it.
if you try to go to church, but you don't know exactly when to show up. Like you kind of show up, and then like there's no one there, so
I
you
don't
kind of
think
even come back, and they're already started, and you're like, what?
I don't think that's how church works. I don't know. I've been to a lot of churches. Usually how it goes is when it starts, but you have no idea when it ends. At least for like black churches and like Hispanic churches, you have no idea when it ends. That's why I always liked white churches because like I was like, ooh, I can get in there. I'll be out in an hour,
Remember that whole
maybe.
Smithsonian thing a while back where they were like a list of like white culture stuff that's like for
Yeah,
this? You remember?
yeah, yeah.
It was like being on time,
Right, right, right,
having a
right.
schedule. Now I understand.
Yeah, yeah. See. No, not at church. It was so funny. I remember this one time going to a funeral, and I don't remember who the person was. Like I wasn't close to the person at all. It was like a coworker of my mom's, something, I don't know. And we went to this funeral, and it was in a black church. We sit down, the pastor starts going, and then we're like, he's just on the same line, like repeating the same verse in all these different ways, attacking it from all these different angles. And at a certain point, like I'm like falling asleep in the pew. Like I feel like we've been there for like 3 hours, and everyone's like, yeah, yeah, like getting into it. And at a certain point, I'm like,
Then
Mom.
he's like, and now let's bring up our first speaker. You're like, what?
I'm like, Mom. What? I was like a small
And then
child
this
at
guy's
this point.
done. I'm gonna be in the casket.
I
Hell, we all are.
was like, can we please go, please? And she's like, no, just a little bit more, just long. And finally we leave. And my mom's like, I'm like so hungry. I'm irritable. And she just starts making this joke. She's like, man, that pastor could take I could have done that in 5 minutes. He took 5 minutes and turned it into 3 hours. Like, oh my gosh. He just took one line and just went on and on and on. Oh my God. And I was like, that's what I was trying to tell you this whole time. Like, why do we have to go to black church? Like, she's like, but it was a funeral. We had to like stay for the whole I'm like, come on. But yeah, so but that is very typical
Yeah.
for black church. So we're doing the reverse. We're doing the reverse black church. Okay. You don't know when we start. You also don't know when we end. So
Kind of the
just
same.
you figure it out. You figure it out. There you go. Yeah. What are we
Uh,
talking about today?
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
Oh, okay. All right. Hit me with it. Give me the sauce.
The date.
Uh,
That's all it is.
It's January. No, it's December. Sorry. I'm ahead of schedule. I'm
Did
ahead.
you say Happy New Year today?
Um, I think
A little presumptuous.
is it is
You
it
don't
is
know if tomorrow's gonna come. Okay.
you know what? Actually, I don't think it's presumptuous because in Australia it already is the new year. Hmm? Isn't it? Isn't it
It's the
tomorrow
it's
already?
the New Year.
No yet. No,
Well, that's not how they say new, is it? I don't know how they say new.
I don't know. I don't know. I think you're thinking though of What's that little island to the south of them?
Tasmania,
Not that one.
New Zealand.
That's it.
Yeah,
Is that how they pronounce it though?
probably not.
Yeah, yeah. Have you ever been to New Zealand?
No,
Me neither. Me neither. But I'd like to go. Will you take me?
really, no,
Yeah. Uh,
no. It's a hellish authoritarian dictatorship. It's like literally 1984 there.
that's exactly why I want to go. I heard like, you can see the future of America there firsthand. And everybody's like they're like 90% jabbed up, I'm pretty sure. Um they
But the
uh
but the but
they don't have guns.
the landscapes. What's the word I'm looking for? What's the word for the land? The scenery.
I don't know. It's okay, yeah.
That's where they filmed Lord of the Rings, right?
Yes. And
That's what everyone knows.
uh where did they film Jurassic Park? Was that also there? Or I feel like that'd be in South
Mm,
America, Central America, Costa Rica, maybe. I don't know.
no, but yeah, probably Costa Rica sounds right.
I'll tell you a story. One time I was driving through Costa Rica in a little, not a Jeep, but it was kind of like a little Jeep shape.
They pronounce it heap.
Heap. I was driving in a heap. And where our Airbnb was in like basically we had to drive through the jungle on
Mm.
this little bridge, and like getting onto the bridge, it was so narrow that like you had to drive really slow, and there's barely, like you could only go this one way into this Airbnb. And it really felt like I was in Jurassic Park. I was like, oh my gosh, this is where the T-Rex comes, you know. And then it didn't happen. So
Were you like watching your glass of water like to see if it would like ripple?
yeah.
Um,
No.
so yeah, what I mean, what can we talk? There's definitely things I could bring up, but it's like you can't just like jump into it. You know what I mean? It's like you ever driven a train before?
I don't have my conductor's license yet.
Okay, well, when you have it, you'll know what I'm talking about.
Uh,
Like you have to grease the wheels.
uh you know what? I learned a new word. Okay. A train torpedo. Have you ever heard of this? Do you
Oh
know what this
yeah,
is?
oh yeah.
You know about this?
No,
I did.
I
Okay.
guess
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, guess.
be what's obvious though. It's
What
clearly
is
not
it?
that. It's clearly not
You don't,
a torpedo.
I mean, it could be.
Like if you
Like,
want to like attack an enemy ship, you build a railway to the ship and then you ram a train into it while it's in the harbor, like while
no,
they're building it, like
no.
at the construction yard.
It's like you're driving your train, and then you drop a torpedo, and it rolls down the train tracks to the other train and destroys that train in your way so that you can continue on.
That actually makes sense.
It's not that either. But that'd be hilarious. No, it's a little detonator that goes on the rail that when your train goes over it, when you drive over it, it explodes, and then it lets you know you need to slow down your train because there may be some like caution ahead or something like that.
Hmm.
Yeah, I just learned that.
So it doesn't damage the train.
It does not damage the train, and it doesn't explode on impact. It explodes on pressure, which I find really fascinating because I did not know that was a possibility.
Um, you can make tripwires with like tripwire and then like a little 22 shell.
Oh,
Like if you trip the wire to like shoot the 22 shell like into like a tree or something, but it like
oh,
will alert you if someone's there.
oh, oh, that's cool.
So if you want to go
So
out Rambo or anything when you guys get out there in the country,
I definitely want to do that.
we should do that. We should when you you get your new place, it's just like set up a bunch of tripwires.
That sounds safe. Yeah. It's funny. Never mind, never mind. I won't tell that story. Okay, all right. Here's
But let's
something
get
that
serious.
let's get serious. Let's get serious. Let's get down to business. Uh, I was watching. because you'd sent it wasn't a podcast, it was like a conversation, a discussion, or perhaps a debate. I didn't watch the beginning of it. It
Was it
was,
the
but
Schmachtenberger one?
that sounds like it could have been it. It was
Oh, no, no. Okay.
you
I
know
know.
that guy,
I know you're talking about.
and then the bearded guy.
Oh yeah, that's the Schmachtenberger. But actually,
Okay,
I sent you another one of his. That's why I thought you were talking about. So you're talking about the one with Vervecki, Schmachtenberger, and some other guy. I don't remember who he was.
the bearded guy.
That's the Schmachtenberger.
Oh,
The
who's the
kind of younger guy.
yeah. But like his beard is like turning white.
He's the Moloch guy.
He's the mullet guy. Exactly. Yeah. And then the other guy, he was like, he sounded like he was from the UK or something.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they were talking about why video games are like so addictive, right? And I found that really fascinating because they were making the point of like, um, you have purpose, you know what the stated goals are, you know how to level up or transcend, you know how to grow, and you can get into the flow state, you know, and like and just completely devote yourself to that and like get lost in your work essentially, and how important
Focus.
that is.
Yeah.
What's that?
Focus. Yeah.
Yeah, focus. Yeah, like how important that is for like young men to be able to um really have a purpose, know what their purpose is, see like the rules aren't changing on you, where you know, oh, like you know, like if you look at how people go through our society right now, it's like, I want you to hold the door open for me. I don't want you to hold the door open for me. This is women, by the way. Freaking women. Yeah. I don't want you to hold the door.
Yeah.
What's that?
There you
And then like I'm a man now and I'll hold the door open for you. It's like, whoa, what? You didn't even want me to hold the door.
But okay, imagine it's 2023, 2024 almost, right? 2024. So imagine 2024. There's a trans woman yelling at a trans, no, no, wait. Yes, trans man, because
Uh-huh.
the trans man held the door open for the trans woman.
Man, man, yeah. And she's like, I'm a strong, independent woman and I don't need no trans man.
I don't
Also,
mean,
also I have man within me. I'm every woman,
literally, what if
man.
literally society just became everybody was the opposite gender, but they were still pairing up like man and woman?
So it's so funny. I had so we have Chantal and Owen over, and Abe and Nina came over as well. And we were talking about this point of um how, because Avery brought this up one time, and it's a really good point. Um, but somebody had said basically to the point of like growing up feeling resentment towards men because um because men would get away with all these things and they couldn't get away with these things, or like for instance their siblings were like the boys were encouraged to be promiscuous whereas the women were like told like no, you can't do any of that, right? And so it's like seeing there's a double standard in everything. And we were talking about this point of just like how women will sometimes grow up, or this is what Avery said actually, how many people have this thought within them, men thinking like, oh, it'd be so much easier to be a girl or a
Yeah.
woman, and women thinking like, oh, it'd be so much easier to be a guy. And we were just kind of talking about that, about like, yeah, like, and that's what allows for a point like you already have, you're questioning that within you of like, it'd be so, you already want that essentially, or all these people already want that. And so when somebody presents to them, here's a solution, you can be a guy or you can be a girl, then it's like, oh, okay, I'll take that, because you're feeling within yourself already this point of like, it'd be so much easier if I were a girl or a guy or whatever. And I remember I was saying this last night. I was like, I remember as as a middle schooler slash high schooler, I remember thinking myself like, man, if I were a girl, I'd sleep with everybody. I would see because in my mind, the way I was thinking of it was like, it's so easy for them.
As a
Like
guy, you want to sleep with everybody, but women should do
exactly,
that if they actually want to easily. And you're like, well, if I
exactly.
were that, I would do that. Yeah.
And so it's so funny because Chantel was like, well, yeah, but like as a woman, like you don't want to do that because you're looking at the guys like, oh, it's so easy for them because they can sleep with whoever they want and not be called a slut or like a hoe or anything like that. And so as a woman, you don't want to be shamed into that. And so you're like, well, I don't want to sleep with anyone because I don't want to be called a slut. I want some guy to want me. It's like it's just like, and so we're playing this game, this polarity of we want the same things, but we're blaming the other side or blaming someone else basically for not getting it.
Yeah. You know what's weird though? Girls don't actually want to sleep with a bunch of guys, like normally, naturally.
No, I mean,
Like they actually don't. They just want to sleep with a guy. They just don't want to be called a slut for doing it.
right, right,
Like
right, right.
I know that.
Yeah,
Like they don't want to just fuck around. I mean, I know nowadays that's like normal for that to be the attitude, but that's not real.
yeah,
I mean, I can say for men it's a different point, but there's a different type of um it's just a different type of starting point, you know.
yeah, yeah. It's interesting because today a lot of women think that they're being free by being promiscuous or like, you know, or it's basically the same idea of like, oh, why can't I have a job and you raise the kid, or like the same
Well,
sort of
yeah.
thing.
It's
Like,
actually the same thing of like, well, it'd be so much easier if I could go out and just work like a man does. And then they go and do it. And then it turns out they're not happy.
right, right. Have you seen those articles? All these articles. I keep seeing these articles that say like single women are happier than uh married women with children. And then like all the photos that they post are of like exactly who you would think would be like the person that they interviewed, like half shaved head, dyed hair, like it's all that, and they look like they don't look happy. I'll say that,
What does it mean to be happy?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like
Great
really,
question.
like I'm not even trying to be philosophical. It's just
Yeah,
like, what does it actually mean? Like it's not real.
yeah,
That'd
yeah,
be like if I was like, um, are you hot? Not like sexually, I mean like temperature wise. Like, are you hot? And you're like, yeah, I'm hot. Like women now are hotter than before. I'm trying to say like or
right,
cold,
right,
whatever. And it's like
right,
sometimes you're gonna be hot, sometimes you're gonna be cold, sometimes you're gonna be kind of in between.
right.
What makes you think you can there's a level of warmth that I always have. Like it doesn't make any sense. Like
Yeah.
happiness is the same thing. Like, the only way you can be happy in that sense is to literally just not uh participate in feeling bad.
Mm.
You can't uh yeah, I mean, let's look at it because I'm not saying you can't create conditions where you will be happy, but those conditions don't exist. They're not possible right now. Like you can delude yourself into being happy because, okay, what would be a situation where people could be just truly happy now? Like if you were playing devil's advocate,
Where people can be truly happy
yeah,
right
like you
now.
could say, well, this person says they're truly happy. Like what would be that scenario?
Okay. It would be the people that are they've got, you know, millions and billions of dollars, and they never would have to work ever again in their lives because they have like a trust fund or whatever, and they get to just travel and do whatever they want whenever they want, essentially. And
And
whoever
if
they
you
want
were
to
to
talk to
actually sit
can.
down with that person and like spend time with them, you'll be able to know whether they're actually happy, right? Like
I
you'd be able to
mean,
tell.
they probably wouldn't be that happy.
I'm saying, but hold on, I was gonna get to that, but I'm saying like if you were to be able to sit down with them and spend some time with them, you would be able to determine for yourself, like, is that person actually happy or not?
I think it's hard to say
You
that.
can tell within themselves, like, are they actually happy, or
I
are
think
they
I think it's hard to
annoyed with
say that.
stuff, bitter, spiteful, angry, getting irritated with shit? Like, are they actually happy, or are they, and
I
like
think
you
it's a
said,
good
like, oh,
point.
I know they're not going to actually be happy. Like, we all know that.
Yeah, yeah.
So who's actually happy? Oh, like this uh, shaved head lesbian who works as a
Barista.
manager at Facebook or something. I don't know. Like, they're really happy, and they just go home at night and they go to the bar, and then like they watch Netflix. Like, what's so happy and fulfilling about their life?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
What?
I
And
think
you're like, now the problem is you go, well, oh, but like having a family and kids and stuff, that's not going to make you really happy. And it's like, stop thinking about it in those terms.
yeah.
you
It's
know?
yeah, it's interesting because it's like
Okay.
everyone's
Think about this. Everybody wants to be like that famous person, or everybody wants to be that genius person, right?
which one? Which one?
Just anybody. Any pick one. Right? Okay. Just choose.
Michael Jackson.
Right.
Everyone Jeffrey Epstein. Everyone wants to be like him.
Right.
Okay, yeah, I'm following. Okay, go ahead.
I mean, Michael Jackson touched so many people's lives.
Yeah, he touched
Jeffrey
lives.
Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein is probably fun to hang out with. Right. Okay, so but what was I gonna say about those people? Okay, like for some reason the image of Picasso pops up in my mind. Okay.
Okay.
So like, man, he's so famous and he did all these amazing artworks, and like I wish I could be him,
Hmm.
Like, don't you think his life was probably really fucked up?
Yeah, definitely.
If
He
you
was
were
raised
actually
by,
in his life,
he was raised by prostitutes.
no. I
Which
didn't.
actually sounds pretty amazing. It's actually, now that I'm
It's
saying it,
fucking cool, actually.
now that I'm saying, I think I want to be Picasso. You gave me a really great idea.
I mean, think about it. His mom was sleeping with so many dudes, and like,
She's
or
she's
like, you're
she's
a
the
slut, and she was like, yeah,
she's the every guy. She's the
living
woman
the
for every
dream.
guy. That's it. That's it. Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like, okay, Elon Musk, you want to be him?
You know what I think
If
people
you
really
actually want to be that guy, like, look at the pressure he has. Like Bill Gates, the guy got divorced. Like, you think he's actually happy? Who's the happy person? Oh no, it's the fucking like bald headed lesbian barista. You know what I mean? Who, like, everyone respects their gender pronouns. She's and has no children and no family, and she's married to a dude who wears a dress. She's happy.
she's very happy.
She's the one that's happy.
That's
Like,
it.
it's like, well, they're happier than the housewife. And I'm like, they ain't none of them happy, okay? It's like, okay, well, they show them to be happier than the person, the woman who's married with kids and everything. And I'm like, you mean the woman who's married with kids, whose husband has some job he doesn't really actually have any real purpose within, and whose kids go to school and like watch Netflix and play video games and like just fucking end up hating both their parents and the world and their lives, and like of course that person's not happy either.
You know what it is? I figured it out. I figured it out. You know how in the Constitution,
Constitution.
Yeah. Constitution, or is it the Bill of Rights? Constitution. No, Declaration.
Well, I won't know until you tell me what it is.
Why don't you know?
I'm trying to read your mind.
I put this little chip in my brain.
Your headphones off. It's blocking my signal.
Come on. Um. Oh. What was I going to say? Oh, that's it.
Do we hold truths?
Yeah, to be self-evident that all men have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
That would be the Declaration.
Thank you.
The preamble, I believe.
The preamble. The blah, blah, blah. Before we really get into it,
Before we start ambling, we must preamble.
let me just
Let's not just amble willy-nilly.
You know, it's interesting. I watched a interview with the president of Argentina.
Mutton chops.
Mutton Chops, that's him. Fuera, what's his last name?
I don't know. I actually don't know anything about the guy.
He seems kind of fun, honestly.
It was kind of fun.
Yeah. Have you not seen like um he he basically okay, he's done these interviews where they're like, you say the left is, trying to uh take away your children and they're deranged and all this. And he's like, because they are. They are. And they want you, and he gets really into it's awesome. Like he's not afraid to say the stuff that people are afraid to say.
I want to take away your children. It's like they admit that.
they, yeah.
That's the point.
Yeah. But he did an interview with Tucker Carlson, and he said
Fucker Carlson.
life Fucker Carlson. Fucker Carlson. That's it. He said life, liberty, and property. He's like, the Declaration is life, liberty, and property. Which I was like, oh, he actually knows it, right?
No, it's the pursuit of happiness. You know how they would write their S's like giant F's?
Yeah.
Buffet of happiness.
A little line in the yeah.
It's like a freaking F. It's weird.
But it's interesting that line, pursuit of happiness, is like when you said 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, what it made me think of was hypnotism. Right? It's like 1, 2, 3, and
actually made me think of Michael Jackson.
Continue.
ABC. The Jackson 5 song. Yeah.
ABC.
It's easy as 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, you know what? You know what though? That's like music is hypnotism, right? Like here's what this 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 is. You ready? You ready? Here's my take. Remember 2020? It's like the year of clear vision, right? And if you look back on 2020, it was like there was an unveiling. There was an apocalypse.
100%.
Right? And like so many more people became aware of, oh fuck, what are they doing in the medical system? Like this is crazy. This is ridiculous. So many more people because of that year. So
it wasn't just the people that already kind of saw it, because there's a lot of people who bought into it. Then later were like, what? And you're like, oh wow, they're waking up, man. Like
yeah. So many people became aware of like, this is what they're teaching my kid in school. What? Like it just like so much got unveiled in the year 2020. It was the year of clear vision. People could now see. Now that doesn't mean that they're awake. That doesn't mean that they're like they get it now. It's that they're aware of it now. They saw it. They saw it. And some of those people went back even after they saw it. They were like, yeah, but I don't know what to do about it. Fine, right? But the point being that it was that in that moment you could see, right? It was clear. Nobody can tell you at this stage. Nobody can tell you that they don't see it. Right? Because it was made really fucking clear. And they're denying it. They're delusional, obviously. Anyway, this year, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 is the year of waking up from the hypnotic trance, or being aware of the hypnotic trance at the very least, right? Becoming aware of that, of the, like everybody was born into this sort of hypnotism where it's just go along with the system, go along. And you never get the opportunity to even just like consider, wait, is there an alternative? Can we do something different? Can we change things? Oh man.
Think about the pendulum going back and forth, left to right.
Yeah.
Right. And like this year, like 100%, it like for the same thing where COVID revealed like, okay, the elite are actually fucking with us kind of a thing. It revealed that the left and right are totally broken both, and it's all part of the fucking game, because like especially with Ukraine, and Israel on top of that, and then suddenly it was like people on the right saying, you can't say negative things about this, and then you're like, what? Like they're just being like the left now, and then I actually agree over here with Black Lives Matter, but like like what's going on, and then like Tucker Carlson's like, yeah, I'm kind of like not a part of either. And then you got Elon Musk, who's like an environmentalist, climate change, like friends with, with Tucker Carlson and Alex Jones. And then you got Patrick Bet-David and Andrew Tate coming in there. And you're like,
yeah,
it's happening, right? But it's like that pendulum. It's like it's like starting to see like, the extremes of that thing,
Yeah. Yeah. Dude. Dude. Okay. There's an image in my mind right now. Imagine like you're standing in front of, or you're sitting in front of a hypnotist, or a hypnotist is standing in front of you, and the pendulum's swinging, and all of a sudden you come to, and you are looking around, and you can see that there's a hypnotist in front of you, and there's a pendulum swinging, and you can see, but you weren't aware of this. Like all of a sudden, like it's like you're living your life, and then all of a sudden your eyes open, and you're like, what? Like as if you're just waking up in that moment, like you just woke up from a dream, and you can see like, I'm strapped to this chair, and there's a pendulum swinging, and this guy's talking, or it's a recording. It's a recording that just keeps playing and playing and playing. And then you look around and you're like, how long have I been here? And you realize, oh shit, I've been here the entire time. I've been dreaming for a very long time. And you realize that you can actually take these straps off of your arms, but then like you start to see the recording is like, it just happened to stop, and it's starting back up again. It's starting back up again. And you have this moment to unstrap yourself and get out of this room. Nobody's there at the helm. Nobody's there actually there keeping you there. But if you allow that recording to play again, if you don't get out of the room, if you don't move, you're stuck. And you're aware of that. And you're like, how many times have I done this before? That's what this year is. That's what I see. Anyway,
I like that. That's really good. I like that.
Enjoy that visual.
I was going to tell you about kind of along the same lines, like, because I was having this cool conversation with Avery yesterday, and we just brought on the topic of Patrick Bet-David, and he was like pointing out there was some video. I haven't watched it yet, but he was saying there was some video he I think he put on his Facebook, and it was like Patrick Bet-David giving some kind of motivational speech of like how he made it and all this stuff, and then towards the end, something to the effect of like, the only thing I fear is God.
Yeah.
And then I think also within that, there was a point of like, he's been blessed by God. That's why he's been so successful, right? And it has to do with that respect of God and all that, right? And I was like looking at that point, right?
He was saying that in his interview with Lewis Howes.
With who?
Lewis Howes.
I don't even know who that is.
Yeah, he's this guy. He looks like a football player. He kind of looks like Peyton Manning, but more handsome. Like if Peyton Manning were a movie star, that's what he would look like. Yeah.
Hypnotism. Yeah, but I was just looking at that point because okay, Patrick Bet-David, like, why is he not being shut down? Right. And I was just thinking about it, it's like he just hasn't pissed off enough people yet. But also there's that point, like Avery was bringing through, of like from the system perspective, he's still supporting the point of God.
Yeah.
Fearing God, right? And I was looking at that, and I think I woke up with this on my mind. Like, what does it mean to fear God? Doesn't that just mean like you're afraid of reality? You know what I mean? It's like, should you be afraid of it? Is that the starting point? Like fear. I'm afraid of reality. I'm afraid if I do something wrong, I'll be punished. Isn't that all just a program coming from being punished and like being, you know what I mean?
It's so interesting because it's like the word is fear, right? But then like if you talk to somebody who's like in the church or whatever, they'll be like, oh, but it just means to be in awe of, right? Somebody who's like a seminary or whatever, right?
But that's not actually true. That they think that.
It doesn't even matter, because
they're saying you have to respect laws.
Your vocabulary for fear is fear. It's like
it's like, no, it's not just awe. Like, come on, like you mean there's certain rules you have to follow, otherwise if you break them, you're going against God. So there is
also, why is it every time I was I was talking with Christine about this, because I don't know how we got on this topic, but I was showing her an image and I was like, this is according to these artists or whatever, this would be a biblically accurate description or depiction of an angel, right? And it's like, just wings. Oh, because we saw an image. We saw an
It's
image
straight
of
up a
like,
description of a character from a Philip K. Dick novel. I'm not kidding. That's how
right.
he describes the character. Sometimes you're like, what the fuck is this?
But like we saw an image of like it was somebody was saying like when they put into like chat GPT, like, put an angel and like you're tripping or something like that. And it was an angel with wings, like how you typically would see them, but the wings had like all these eyeballs on them, right? And I was like, oh, that's funny, because that's like kind of the way that an angel is described in the Bible. But here's the images that most people come up with. And I was showing her those images, and she was like, whoa, what the fuck? Right. And then I was like, isn't it interesting how every time in the Bible, when an angel appears, the first thing they say is, do not be afraid. Right? Like they have to preface
Like, okay,
hey,
like, don't be afraid here.
I know what I look like. I know,
I
but
know I'm a hideous monster.
but don't be afraid.
You know, here's how to look at an angel. Well, I guess it won't help if you haven't seen this, but have you ever seen Neon Genesis Evangelion?
No.
What? Don't you like anime? Do you ever watch anime?
Yeah, yeah.
There's
I
definitely
like
more
I like
to it.
I like how you're like don't you like
Do you like anime? Like, come on, man. If there's anime to watch, that's definitely one of them. It's pretty good. Also, Akira is pretty cool, but
I saw Akira.
yeah, Akira's pretty cool. But the Neon Genesis one is cool because they have this. There are these things called they call them angels, but these giant fucking monsters like the size of skyscrapers.
Oh, okay.
But they call them monsters. If you have you seen Pacific Rim? I think that's what
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
called.
yeah. Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know how they have those? I forget what they call them, but they're those monsters that are attacking. It's kind of basically just a ripoff of Neon Genesis, to be quite honest. Because then they have to
Okay.
build this machine that this kid can pilot to fight these angels every time they come, and then he like
Okay.
learn how to fucking fight them.
Dude, okay. I don't know if you wanted to finish something with that,
Yeah,
but
it's just that's my thinking of an angel. It's like some terrible fucking monster. It's like
so I just read the book Ender's Game,
okay,
right?
I haven't read that by the way. Is it good?
Bro,
Is it good?
I hated it.
Oh, okay, good.
Hated it, but also could not stop reading it. Like it was here's why I hated it. Filled with spite, just filled with absolute spite towards children. Like, and it was like
Is that kind of the point of it?
it's the point of it is
Wait,
is
who
like
wrote? Oh, I was just like, never mind. I was thinking that was Arthur
yeah.
C. Clarke. Yeah, but
No,
anyway.
no, but the point of it is like it's basically taking these children, and it's the whole point of it is we're
I hated
taking
it from the perspective of you don't like reading that.
yeah, it was like, oh my God, why are they doing this?
But it
Like,
wasn't like the author is actually trying to be spiteful. I mean, I don't know. I'm asking.
I think the whole point was what we do to children.
Okay.
Like it is kind of like but also what children will do to each other and everything because of these pressures. Like this is because okay, a lot of it, I'll give you an example. A lot of it was like the kind of the premise of it is children are monitored in order to become like the next great general or commander, so we can fight off these aliens, right? That's
So
pretty
they're
much
trying to like select these children that they know
exactly.
in the
And so
future.
they'll put the children into high pressure situations and not necessarily tell them that's what they're doing. Or
Oh, that's the Richard Branson playbook.
oh, there you go, there you go.
They cracked the code.
That's it. And so like, and so there'll be like a general who's like, hey, we have to do this to this child. And then like the admiral's like, I don't want to do that. Like that's gonna fuck with him. Like, yes, but we need to know if he can handle this pressure, because the aliens are not going to care. So we need to find out, is this the guy who's going to help us, solve this problem or whatever, like kill these aliens or whatnot. And we have to put him in this situation and find out what he does. Right. And so there's a lot of that. and then they pit the children against each other and all this stuff, right?
Very similar to that Neon Genesis. They're not pitting against each other, but it's a similar point. Yeah. Isn't
And
that what we do to kids in school?
it is, it is. That's what I was going
Literally,
to start saying. Is like it's
because you
like
might find the next great scientist or some shit, you know?
right, right. This whole idea of like, oh, we're gonna, you know,
Pressure
I know
cooking.
that. Yeah, we don't want if we're gonna pressure cook these kids. Wow, that's a really good way to say it. That's a really good way to say it because that's exactly what's happening. Is dude, you know what it is? All right, you wake up from your trance and you're not strapped to a chair this time. You're literally putting your child in a pressure cooker. That's it.
We're really burdening this analogy, but so you're strapped to a chair, you're being hypnotized by a pendulum and a recording. You wake up and you're also putting your child into a pressure cooker.
They're like, Mom, and you're like, shh. No. I
Hey,
guess
just a quick aside. Have you listened to any of Ricky Gervais's latest stand up?
no, is it good?
It's really good, man. Like,
Really?
yeah, I don't know why they got recommended to me some clips. And I listened to some clips from Supernature, which was his previous one, which was
Uh-huh.
pretty good. And then also his new one, I think is called Armageddon.
Okay.
It, yeah, it's just a random thing, but because there was this one where this one bit he was talking about prayer, and he makes some funny points about prayer. And there's this one part where he's like, he meets people on the street, and they're like, how's little Johnny doing? And like their kid or whatever. He's like, oh, not good. He's actually in intensive care for this leukemia or whatever. Like he's just, it's not looking good, but we're praying for him. We're praying for him. And he's like, I'll go home and I'll pray 2 times that he doesn't make it. And it's funny. It's like really sick, but it's like he's like, I don't do that. Come on. But it's funny because he had made a point earlier too about like he made some joke about like how does prayer work? He's like, I never understood it. He's like, is it sort of I forget the first option, but then the second one is he's like, or is it like a democracy? He's like, because if it's a democracy, he's like, like there's some disaster that happens in wherever he lives, like I forget what he called it. It's like you know all the 100,000 people are praying like for it to get better. He's like, but there's a billion Chinese people going, God, fuck Bristol, God. Like he's like, if it's a democracy, we're screwed. It's just funny because it's like people don't look at the logic of that shit. And
Yeah,
then
yeah, yeah.
and I was talking with Avery and we talked about that point of the sports teams.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
both sides are like praying their team wins, and it's
Right,
like
right, right.
which one? I don't know why I brought that up in this context, but
What's interesting about that is I used to think that's how like okay, when you're listening to like those recordings for like your wish is your command or anyway, but like you're listening to those recordings and then like someone has a question, but like, okay, but what if somebody else has the idea that I can't make it and that's their intention, right? And it's like that would always confuse me as a child, like, okay, but this person says I can't do it, but I believe that I can do it. So who wins and like do they have like some special prayer power that like makes them stronger or do I have do I if I get a bunch more people together, like it is always the negative more powerful, like you have to play all these fucking games to be like no the positive is more powerful always, like
but I mean, if you think about it, if we take it away from the realm of just imagining and that's how it works only,
mhm, mhm.
like look at the level to which everybody's attention is deliberately focused on certain things all the time.
Yeah,
It's like if you wanted to be a billionaire, don't you have to focus people's attention on wanting the thing that you have?
yeah,
So
yeah,
that's kind of like, in a way, that point. You know what I mean? Because if they're like, no, I don't want that, I want this. So someone else is like trying to get their attention on that. And whoever's better
yeah.
is going to be the one that does better. It's like God versus Satan, isn't it? Like Satan's trying to get you to focus on him, and God's trying to get you to
Right,
focus on him. And
right. God
God created
versus Santa?
Satan. Santa.
Santa. Santin. Santa.
Hannah.
Santana. God versus Santana. Yeah, no, I watched that movie. That was a good one. That
Hey,
was
I
a
got
good one.
another cool book to tell you about.
Tell me.
and is in the context of kind of the points we're talking about. Um, this book called Night Lamp, and I'm not
Nightmare.
quite done with it. I'm close to being done with it, but it's by Jack Vance, because we
Okay.
had Katie and I had read the Dying Earth series that he wrote. It's really good.
Okay.
Anyways, he's got this book called Night Lamp, and it's like this boy who uh, his mother is killed, and in front of like kind of like not in front of him per se, but he's there while it's happening, and he has to like escape right when he's like 6 years old, and then he ends up getting, because he's like just kind of wandering around, these like kids end up start beating him up because they think he's like, you know, like a street urchin who's like just going to grow up and be like a criminal or something. They don't really understand why he's there, but that's kind of the explanation as to why they start beating him up. So they
Street
start,
urchin, is that sort of like sea urchin or
yes,
like, but they live in the
it's
street?
more of a street cucumber.
Okay, okay.
But anyway, so they start beating him up, and it's a really traumatic experience. And then he's saved by this couple that are like professors visiting from another world, and they take him to the hospital, but he's having these violent spasms that are obviously an emotional thing in nature. So they take him to these psychiatrists, and the psychiatrists are like, we don't know what's causing it. Meaning it wasn't the beating, it was something else. There's some kind of thing he's reliving. And they don't know. Maybe it was the beating, they don't know what it is. But because they don't know anything about the kid's past. He just shows up with all these broken bones and everything, right? So they end up removing part of his memory that's causing those problems, right?
Hmm.
So, anyways, fast forward, he goes, and these people adopt him. They go back to their world, and then they're like professors, and he's like living in their life, and they want him to go and like basically become a professor and like, you know, do all this stuff. But he starts having this voice talking to him, and he doesn't really know who it is, but it's kind of like a voice from the past, and it's kind of like getting him to like be like, look, all I really care about is figuring out what was my past, like what happened to me, where am I from, like because no one knows, and my parents are being really vague with me about where I'm from. And you know, they told me this, they told him the story, he got beaten and all that stuff, but they won't tell him anything else or where it was, because they don't want him going and do that. They just want him to focus on like academics and stuff. And he's really good at all that stuff, but he doesn't care about it.
Mhm.
But in this society, they have all these different social clubs. And at first, the idea, like when Katie told me about it, it sounds so weird, but it makes sense in the book. Like, it's like, think of it kind of like a country club, but it's not necessarily it's more like a cross between a country club and a fraternity. You know, like there's some country clubs that are like real high status, and there's some that are just like anybody can join their pub. You know what I mean? But it's more like a fraternity. It's not like you're going to a country club where you play golf. It's like you're a part of just like this
Oh,
group.
that country club. I thought you meant like the kind where you like listen to My Achy Breaky
It's like
Heart.
two-step line dancing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, well, anyway, so there's all these clubs, and a big part of the society on that planet is striving to get to the next level of like, you know, so like at the highest level, like you have the most respect. Like basically, it's kind of like you can look down on everybody else, and you're like, you know,
It's basically like you're a bonesman.
sort of, yeah. It's but it's not like in a conspiratorial way per se. It's more
Okay.
just like everybody's got to be a part of a club, and everyone's always trying to get to the top. And there's ways of kind of like, it's like kind of like social credit, but it's not necessarily kept track of per se. It's
Okay.
more like a just a sort of uh they call it comperature, right? And it's kind of just like a respect that you kind of exude and demand and also give. And it's like based on etiquette and politeness and sort of, you know, and so you have to kind of play these games, and you have to respect all these different points, and it's just kind of like a part of the fabric of their society.
Okay.
But there's some people who choose not to play that game at all. Like they're just like, I don't care about status, I'm not going to be a part of it. And so like people kind of look down at them, but they're not technically allowed by the rules of their like etiquette to like mistreat them per se, but they're not a part of the game in a way, right?
Okay.
And they call them nymphs. And so like his parents are nymphs. Like they're just professors, they're really highly paid, they have a lot of respect academically, but they don't get that social status respect, and they act like they don't care about it. It's kind of like, we don't care, you know, like, so it's like this whole thing, right? And so the reason I'm explaining that context is because so he's kind of really good academically. Like the other person who's like at his level academically is this girl who's in the highest level of social status because her dad's in it, right? And this group is called the Clam Muffins. Right? They all have these really weird names. Like there's one called like the Bad Guys, or there's one called like, some of them will have normal kind of sounding names,
Is
like
that
the
why you got on the
Celebrity
phone with
Society
me
or
today?
something.
Is
Huh?
that why you got on the phone with me today and you're like, I'm a bad guy?
I know it sounds a bad boy.
Uh,
Um, but it'll be like weird names, and some of them will have normal sounding names or whatever, you know. But anyway, so her group is called the Clam Muffins, and there's only like 9 people in it. And she's like, basically, it's funny with her because she can kind of do whatever she wants, but it's like, well, like imagine if she was rude, right? They
yeah.
would be like, well, but she's a clam muffin, so it couldn't actually be rudeness
Oh,
because her
okay. Yeah.
level of status is so high that it couldn't be that. Like, so she can kind of get away with being very like haughty and like, arrogant and stuff, and that's how she
Yeah.
acts.
Yeah.
Now he's like actually at her level, and everyone knows it, but it's kind of like they also just totally ignore him and don't care because they don't give him any real uh, attention because he's not a part of the club. It's interesting.
Yeah.
And so I'm bringing it up because in the book, there's many points where, and I haven't spoiled anything, by the way. If anyone wants to read the book, I haven't spoiled anything, like except for maybe like the point about the clam.
Highly doubtful.
I really haven't. Like, there's so much in there. Right? It's really good, and also he's a really good writer. But what's cool about it, there's so many times where he sort of has an advantage in a situation, like if it's sort of a negotiation or someone's trying to persuade him or manipulate him, because he doesn't care about that social status.
Hmm.
So it's like they cannot use that as a leverage point.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
sometimes causes consequences for him, but like he can't be manipulated by like, well, but you need to climb the ladder, and if you do this, you'll get that or whatever. And like, um, there's certain things where it's like he's willing to basically just walk away from something because it's like he cares, but not that much, sort of. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
it's the thing he wants because of it. And I was just looking at that from the perspective of, you know, like if you look at it in the context of changing the system, there's so many things you can fall into of like, well, but the status and the symbolism and all of that, you know. And I was talking to someone the other day and they were experiencing this point of jealousy about someone they perceived as having a lot of money, but like was just doing some bullshit, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We were just kind of walking through that point, and I was like,
They were jealous of Cardi B.
well, actually, I said that. I was like, are you jealous of Cardi B? Right? And they were like, well, no. And I was like, why not? Right? And they're like, well, because da da da, like they make their money this way or whatever, right? But I think, and that, I use another example too. Is like, I was like, who makes a lot of money is
Like they're not jealous of Cardi B? How are you not jealous of Cardi B?
well, but you know what I mean? It's like it's easy to judge that and be like, well, but they're just doing blah 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 blah, you know? And so my point was like, right, but
She
you're
had a conversation with the president of the United
right.
States.
How can you not be jealous of her for surpassing intellect? Um, it's like, who else makes a lot of money? The CEO of fucking Raytheon. Do you know
Oh,
what I mean? Who makes like
CEO of Pfizer.
right? Oh, yeah, no, I think that was the example I used. I think that's what it was,
Oh,
right?
okay. Oh, yeah,
Like
yeah,
I
yeah.
think that's what it was. I think the guy's a billionaire, actually, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Jeez.
And it's like, why aren't you jealous of him? Well, but they're evil, and it's like, right. So if you utilize this point of like status and so forth, and now at the same time, if you really look self honestly, there is a level of jealousy towards that, and there is a level of like if that guy walks in the room and says something, like you listen to that person
Yeah.
because but they don't have the principles and they're willing to abuse and they're willing to do all kinds of shit. Also,
Right.
I sent you this that Joe Rogan thing with that health insurance guy talking about
Oh,
health
I
insurance.
watched that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I want to know
Yeah.
your thoughts on that because that was kind of mind blowing. I mean, that all is all corrupt, but the way he was breaking it out, I didn't follow all of it,
Yeah.
but like I was like, dude, this is insane.
No, that is insane. So it's basically like it's complete regulatory capture. It's complete capture. Like, and we know that about the health industry and
That's what I
or
mean. Like you kind of
medical.
know that already, but when you hear it being broken down,
Yeah, it's like, oh damn, they fucking just went and first off, they're saying that this medicine costs X amount of dollars, like I don't know, $1,000 $1,000. It's $1,000 to get this medicine. Actually, I know, I think we talked about this on the podcast before, but like I know some old people that are taking some medications that it costs $2,000 for like one pill. And they have to take
Dude,
like
that
so
one guy
much.
he mentioned was doing some treatment that was $14,000 a month.
Yes. Yeah. Like, and the insurance is like it's 14,000 and here's your copay. And like, see, you don't have to pay 14,000. You only have to pay 7,000. Like, okay, great. Like, but it's insane because they're not even paying 7,000. They're charging you 7,000, but they're paying like 300.
Like his point was that you're paying far more than they are.
That's
Like
what I'm
you're
saying. Yeah.
paying less than what they say it is. You feel like you're getting a good deal, but they're actually the ones who are making all the money, not you.
And yeah,
You're not saving.
and like how they basically bought all the companies that like set the prices. So they set the prices, then they tell you how much you have to pay, which is based on some retail price, but they're buying it for way, way, way less. Like it's not even the retail price for them. It's like some wholesale price that is like pennies, literally pennies. And they're like telling you, yeah, so this is how much it costs. So and we're gonna cover most of that for you. Don't worry. Don't worry. And then you're still paying more than they're even paying for wholesale. Like
And now the question is, what are they doing with that money?
fucking doing more shit.
Aren't they just taking it and investing it and like
Yeah.
money?
Yeah. Like
While,
buying
while
more.
you're basically just trying to stay alive,
Yeah.
right, and paying all this crazy money, that's literally what they're doing.
Yeah.
And also that point about the tier 1 and tier 2 drugs and all that stuff, and him saying like it's not based on actually which is the better drug, it's just based on the profitability for the insurance company.
Yeah.
And then also that point where you're talking about, do you remember that point about that conversation with that CEO of the hospital?
What did he say about that?
It's
Oh,
yeah.
like he was like, so it was about the joints, right? Like,
He had a
okay,
friend who worked with it's like a joint company for like when you replace a joint or something, right?
yeah.
And
And
yeah, do you want to tell it?
all he cared about was will this joint last 90 days? Like that's like how
So,
much does
so
it
the guy was
cost?
like, I have this joint, it's a little bit more expensive, but it'll last like 10 years or something like that.
Yeah.
Right. The guy was like, I don't give a shit. The CEO of the hospital that would have been buying or whatever. He's like, if you tell me it lasts 9 months, but it's cheaper, we're going with that.
Yeah. He said
And
90 days. He didn't even
90
say
days, yeah,
9 months.
whatever it was. And the point being, like, he was saying the interesting thing about all of that was that there's a certain period at which, like, you could think of it like a warranty, although it's not a warranty, but it's like the time at which they would experience any consequence if this thing broke down.
Right.
It's a certain period, let's say the 90-day period. And then after that, the responsibility falls onto somebody else. So they're like, as long as it lasts this period and we're out of the responsibility for it, that's good enough for me.
Yeah.
So they would literally then trick the person through ignorance or whatever into thinking this is the best option by
Yeah.
saying it's a tier 1 or whatever methods they use. So the customer's thinking, oh, this is the best option. That's why they're recommending it. When in reality, it's just best for their profitability. It's not about. And then he also used this term about um, uh, monetizing your disease state.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
everyone knows the whole thing about, like, obviously it costs. It's obviously more profitable to manage a symptom than cure it. I mean, we are
Right.
well know that, but the way he like broke that down and described it, it was just like, fuck, man. Like they're literally like want you to stay sick
Yeah.
because their business is based on making money because you're sick,
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you can't sit here and blame those companies, because if they don't do it, somebody else will. But that's the nature of the system we live in. And how much of it is like, how much of it is, well, think about it. Like, I mean, I can't say in any one person what's the cause of their diabetes, but let's just say in some case, maybe it's has to do with the quality of the food they're eating because of what's available, or just through their education, they don't know any better. Like the grocery store here, like in our town, is like, it's like it's just all a bunch of crappy name brand stuff. There's like, like produce, which we'll get produce a lot of times.
Yeah.
But it's all just like, Lay's potato chips and, Doritos and a lot of stuff that we just don't get, generally speaking. You know what I
Yeah. Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Coca-Cola. Like you go to like look at the drinks and there's no like, craft root beer with pure cane sugar. It's just like Coca-Cola. You know
There's,
what I mean? Like it's
there's
not
no
stuff
harmless harvest.
not stuff I would get, right?
Yeah.
Um, but there's people in there who just go in there and fill up their carts with all that stuff, and that's what they eat.
Mhm.
You know, and you can say, well, that's their choice. It's like, is it their choice? Like, are they making it as a free choice, like totally free from the perspective of they totally understand all the consequence and everything? Plus, they have a job that probably just, man, like doing a lot of the because like people might ask, like, why do you do all this stuff around the property? Why don't you just pay people to do it? And you could. It's just, and sometimes you do, but there are some things we like to do ourselves because we learn from it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I could pay a guy to come over and slaughter the cow or the pig. I could take it to a butchering place, but I want to do it.
Yeah.
I want to spend that time and do that.
Yeah.
And it's still, you're still making money on it either way you do it. But
Right. Yeah.
like, I'll spend the time, right? Um, like the first time I paid a guy to come out because I wanted to learn, so now I can do it. And there's a certain point in that. Um,
It's like you
but the reason I brought that up was like building something. It's a lot of like that physical work it's strenuous, and like when I first started doing stuff like that, the next day I'd wake up and I'd be like sore and all this stuff, right? And I'm like, man,
yeah.
if that was your job every day, and I remember one time I had this guy come over. He's a really cool guy. He helps me with things when I don't know, like if it's electrical or something I don't know what I'm doing. It's like I really don't know what to do. I'll ask him to come over and do it, right? The contract, right? And I remember one time a few years back, he was like, I was building something for the kids, like the beds or I don't know what it was. And he was like, man, I wish I had time like you have. And I was like, what would you do? And he's like, oh man, I'd be building all kinds of stuff. And I'm thinking it was just so interesting because I'm like, that's literally what he does all day for work.
Yeah.
But then he can't do it for himself.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he probably doesn't ever build his own stuff at home or whatever, but it's like he would like to just do that for himself all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
He has to go and do it as work for somebody else. And so is that his fault? Is that the education system's fault? Like whose fault is that? I mean, it's like a whole collective point, but it's just so
Yeah.
interesting, and my point being, going back to the diabetes and disease and all that, it's like you look at the toll that all of that stress and stuff takes on people of doing stuff they don't really want to be doing, and that's physically really difficult, and
Yeah.
we talk about healthcare and it's like literally just a bunch of stuff that's very likely preventable,
Dude, I was just
in easy ways and really big ways.
I was just talking with someone yesterday, and they were saying how some family members of theirs, when they got pregnant, they had got diabetes from being pregnant, right? As is pretty common. But then when their baby was born, they had the baby in the hospital. When the baby was born, the doctor said, "Well, you shouldn't breastfeed them because you have diabetes. So you should give them formula." And I was like, we're having this conversation. I'm like, the first ingredient on
Who had that?
formula, the person who got pregnant, who like some
Oh,
family member.
okay, yeah, I've heard that. Gotcha.
But they said like,
Why
the
should they
first,
do that?
because it would like, I don't know, harm the baby somehow, right? But the doctor convinced this mother to give their baby formula. The first ingredient in formula is high fructose corn syrup. It's like it doesn't even make sense. It's like, so I shouldn't give my breast milk.
Is what's the breast milk gonna like carry diabetes? Like, what do
like
they? How do they think this works? Like, why would that hurt the baby?
it didn't make any
It
fucking
makes no sense.
sense,
It doesn't make
right?
sense. Trust your
Right?
doctor.
Exactly. And so it's
Unless they go against what the news tells you, and don't trust them.
yeah, it's actually, you're not trusting your doctor, you're just trusting the news. That's it.
Literally just trusting the pharmaceutical companies.
Seriously.
They say
Seriously,
trust, you should trust your doctor, but at the end of the day, if the doctor contradicts what the pharmaceutical companies say through the news, they want you to defer to them, not the doctor.
they
And
will
that
end your
that's been
fucking
proven,
doctor.
like you were talking about with the 2020 stuff.
They will
That
end
was
your fucking
shown very
doctor.
clearly. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean,
How can a doctor be a crackpot?
how can a doctor be a crackpot?
Yeah, they're a doctor.
They're a crackpot
You know what I'm
doctor.
saying? Like, how can they be crazy? They're a
Yeah.
doctor. They
Yeah, yeah,
have
yeah.
the degree. How could they be the one that's wrong?
It's isn't that so interesting? Like, okay, you go through the entire system and like you get all this respect. It's like kind of like how you were sharing with that book. It's like you get all this respect, and then once you get to the top, they can say, "Hey, we're pulling your status. You did all the stuff we know, and like you're actually smarter than most people. But just marginally
Actually
so."
have the most integrity and actually have done the most research and actually have investigated it and considered it the most.
Right. And we're taking your status from you. And nobody will believe you. Nobody will trust you. It's fucking
Dude,
insane.
that is the whole that's part of the significance of 1984 when he talks to what's the guy's name, like O'Brien, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
He's like in his building or where I forget where they're talking, and he's like basically explaining to him the inner party and the outer party and like the double think and like how it's like it's true, but you also know it's false and you're okay with both, and
Yeah.
just accepting what is not real, but so that you can stay within the party,
Yeah.
it's that's what it is.
It's interesting because what do people actually trust? What are you trusting? If you didn't trust, so you trusted this doctor, why? Because he went to school and he did all this stuff and he knows what he's talking about and he's really smart and like he's a good doctor. But then as soon as the news says no, he's a bad doctor, he's no good, you're trusting the news. So what do you actually trust? It's just you're trusting society. Like,
What are you actually trusting is you're trusting someone who is speaking to you through channels to hide their true identity.
Mm,
Do you know what I mean? Because
dude.
the pharmaceutical guy didn't even talk about that.
Yeah.
He was more talking about the insurance companies.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
that, I guess, but he didn't even talk about that aspect of it, which is like the whole fucking.
Yeah, that's interesting because if you really do look at it, oh, what was the point that I was making before? I know what the point was, but I forgot how I got to this point. But basically, people are doing things. Oh, people are doing things at the behest of money, essentially, right? Like that's what everybody has been living for. Whatever money wants, not necessarily what an individual wants, but whatever money wants, you do. Which, if you think about it, that's what causes people to put their kids in school, what causes people to live the lives that they live. Basically, like everyone is living as slaves to money, which is crazy because we created money.
Yeah, and in various ways of like either you're a slave to it in the sense of you're just always trying to get enough to survive, or you're you understand how it works from a perspective of creating it and then accumulating it and growing it, but then you're still a slave to that because you will make decisions that it's like that just keep everybody stuck in that slavery point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like even if you're the one who's on the winning side, you're still making decisions that are it's like it seems like you're winning. But it's
Yeah.
so fascinating because we talk about this stuff and people are more than happy to talk about God and heaven and all this stuff, right? As long as it has nothing to do with the reality here. But the moment you challenge that and say that's not real, but what you do here actually does influence who you are when you die and what you exist as and all of that and what's available to everybody.
Prove
Like,
it.
right. It's like, but you were okay with Jesus died for your sins and shit like 10 minutes ago, but now suddenly you want some proof. And it's like, which one makes more sense? Let's not talk about proof. Which one makes more sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you can't, and you know, it's part of the whole Santa Claus problem, where it's just like, I want things to be perfectly logical over here and follow rules here, but then over here it's magical and fantasy. You know, and going back to that Patrick Bet David thing. So God, okay, you're so successful because God blessed you. Okay, because you fear God. Right. Well, you know who must be really blessed by God then?
The Pope.
Well, Larry Fink,
Oh yeah.
right? BlackRock.
Yeah.
So he's obviously been more blessed by God. So stop fucking questioning all of the ESG and the trans and the woke agenda and all the BlackRock shit. Stop, because God is blessing them. And you can say, well, no, but I did the right thing. You sold insurance,
Which is selling God.
which is fear, which is like, and I'm not coming out to criticize this person individually. It's just like,
Yeah.
it's more like you have a platform and then you're telling people like fear God.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know what? I bet Larry Fink realizes there is no God.
Larry Fink
That's why
believes he
he's
is
probably
God.
more successful.
He believes he is God.
Imagine the Pope, man.
Yeah.
Like, don't you think at a certain point the guy they like it's not even like a sit down, they tell him, it's like you just realize like there's no
Yeah.
virgin. Like, the priests who believe in God, they're the ones who work at like the local churches and shit. They're
Right.
really convincing about it. You know what I mean? And like
Yeah.
they don't have, if they had the like the inner party double think ability to really like know the truth and yet still sell the lie, they would be the Pope.
Oh yeah, for sure.
He's the fucking O'Brien of the Catholic Church, right? He
It's
knows.
it's interesting because like I mean, you can see these points. It's it, it,
You know how these people are so mad about the satanic displays, around
right.
Christmas time?
Yeah,
And it's
yeah,
like, go watch a fucking Catholic mass. It's a gigantic satanic ritual, and you're pissed off that the Satanists, who are not even like actually worshiping the devil, if you actually understood what, not that I'm down with Satanism, but if you actually understood what Satanism is, it's more like law of attraction enlightenment shit. It's not about fucking worshiping the devil as like this evil guy. It's
yeah.
not what
Right.
it is. It's actually just the same shit as Christianity. The same
It's
shit.
yeah, it's just funny because like the people who are the most quote unquote moral are they uphold the system the strongest because
Right.
they're unwilling to challenge it. They're unwilling to actually be self-honest about like what's making things move and put themselves in a position to move those things because it would be quote unquote immoral according to society, you know.
Dude, are there 100 million Catholics who are going to wake up in poverty today?
Yeah, for sure.
Like for sure, right? Like in
Yeah,
Costa Rica and all these places, right?
100%, 100%.
And the Pope's still going to get up and do the same thing he's been doing and live in a palace with guards and fucking. What do you think he eats for dinner?
Fucking caviar.
Like the best shit, right?
Like the
I
wine
would want
that
to eat
gets
caviar every night, but
the wine that gets donated to him from the Rothschilds. Is it the Rothschilds? Yeah, the Rothschilds,
yeah.
right? Like he lives the fucking life. And you know, it's funny that the
He's the
Rothschilds
king.
do that. Exactly. Exactly. Like
I mean,
he's a
he's
king.
actually blessed by God, I suppose. Like,
He's a king. Like what's that story about Napoleon that when he was getting crowned, right? That he did not take, was it Napoleon? It is one of the emperors, right? But
Charlemagne?
what's that?
Charlemagne?
No, I wasn't Charlemagne. But basically when he was getting crowned, he didn't let the Pope crown him. He took the crown from the Pope's hands and crowned himself,
Oh, okay.
right? Which is whoa,
Buddy, thank you.
yeah, like you got some big chops, but like literally that story shows so much. It shows how the Pope is really who holds the power, right? He can crown you emperor or whatever, but he's the one who's crowning you. He's the one who's like he's making the emperor essentially, right? And having this alliance with you. But it's like the emperors, the popes, the kings, they're all the same. They're all the same. So if you have a problem with like oh, this King, is it King Charles? Is that,
The new one?
is that his?
I think
Yeah.
so. Unless he changed his name.
I can't keep up with it. I feel like I feel like I don't know. Did you ever feel this way growing up that all the British people were like so into their celebrity monarchs or whatever, and
They're
like
totally into celebrities and stuff and all that. Yeah, it's real weird.
and like you're just like, I don't get it. Like why who why
But
do
you
you
know, it's so
care?
funny because they have all that woke shit going on in the UK.
Mm.
And within that, they just like they crown the king again, and you're like, okay,
Yeah.
you
Like
see who actually makes the rules. Like it's all
Black
bullshit.
Lives Matter. But also
We have a
King
king,
Charles,
white.
I'm
He's a
so
white king.
happy.
We have the white king ruling over us, and we are his servants, or subjects or whatever. You're like, okay,
Have you been seeing all that stuff of like anyone who's got a platform today? Literally, all the people in their comments on all of their posts, like, I'm talking about people with like at least a few tens of thousands of followers. All the people in their comments are like, where do you stand with Palestine or with Israel? Or like, you know, really pressing for them to make a statement, a public statement. And it's just so interesting. Like, uh, I saw Owen Benjamin actually posted the other day. I don't remember when, but some woman is getting sentenced to 11 years in jail for trying to prevent a late term abortion, trying to prevent somebody else from getting a late term abortion. And Owen Benjamin was just making the point of like, you care so much about, you know, can't say this around this certain race of people or whatever, like, because your words are violence, that's harm, whatever. Meanwhile, this poor old lady is trying to, save this baby's life who like is actually viable outside of the womb, and she gets sentenced 11 years in prison, and you don't bat an eye. Like, that's like, oh no, has nothing to do with me, you know
right.
it's, anyway, the point being, wake up from the trance. Like, stop participating. Oh. Okay. I finally come to the point. You ready? um, what is that trance? It's the point that you're bringing up earlier of the fear of God. It's literally fear of the system, fear that is the trance.
Oh,
Con-
and
Ooh,
we're close on times because we're gonna
I
stop
know,
here.
I know, I
I
know.
want to add this part into that. Okay, just to throw it in there because we talked about this before. So remember on that meeting, I asked, "What's the one word if
Yes.
you accept God and the fear of God?" And I mean, even accepting the idea of God is that there is an external reality separate to you that it
Yep.
is not equal. Oh shit, I said the word. It's not equal to you. It's like you are less than it in some way.
Yeah.
Okay, by
Yeah.
accepting God. So whether it's the guy with the beard, or it's like energy, or it's the universe separate from you because you're an atheist or whatever the fuck it is, if you accept this point of God in any way, what is the one thing that cannot exist?
Yeah.
Equality.
Equality.
Equality, right? Because that is the very definition of inequality.
Right. Like,
And
it's superior
what
to
the
you.
consequences by accepting this hierarchy of there's this one thing that's better than everybody, it trickles down.
Yeah.
Because then there's going to be the king or the person who's like, actually, I'm actually really in touch with that more than everybody else, and so then they become better, and then you
Right.
have it just becomes like the clam muffins, you know, and all these like social hierarchy things, right?
I
That's
feel
what
like
it's
that's
about.
a slur to some type of woman, like,
Yo,
fucking clam muffin.
you fucking clam muffin, definitely. Um, but yeah,
Yeah.
that's really what it is, and I like what you said too. It's like this is the point, is the year of challenging that hypnotic trance of like
The fear
there's a God.
trance.
Yeah, it's like there's a God that's going to punish you if you're not a good little boy or girl.
It's the fear trance. It's fear of the system. Fear of God is fear of the system, fear of reality. That's it. Stop living in fear. Stop. Wake up from your trance.
The challenge with that, if you accept it, is we are creating it. So we're just
Mm,
fearing what we're creating, and we're not taking responsibility. Let me go let
yeah.
Max in.
Okay. Guys, prepare yourself. yourselves.
Hey, hey!
If we were all one body.
Oh! Hello? Hello? Hello?
Boom.
Hey, what's up, Maximus?
He's reading the chat.
Uh, what's up, dude?
Why do you have to stop in 30 minutes, Drake?
Well, now in 9 minutes. Because we have people over, we're cooking, and I gotta go get some stuff.
I have to stop at some
Or-
point, so he's gonna do that.
Yeah.
So what do you want to share with us, Max?
Well, I brought some stuff in the bag. You can probably hear my bag.
Yeah, what's in this bag?
Kern, fly that.
What?
Is that a paper plane? Nice. Oh, another one. All right. How many paper planes do you have in there?
9.
That one didn't look much like a plane. That just looked like a sheet of paper. This one looks like a plane.
That one's a black spaceship.
Oh, black spaceship. Okay.
That's a dart.
That's a dart.
I have a book in there actually. It's not a very long book.
Have you ever made one of those vortex planes? No. It's like it's just a strip of paper that
Yeah, I
you-
made those.
The loops.
I
Yeah, you make a loop.
call them ovarials.
you call them what?
Ovarials.
Ovarials?
Yeah.
Like they're oval aerials?
Actually, a cool name.
Alright, so this one's the toughest, but if I thought, well, thank you, put that up and put it with. Here are 2 AIs. that I made up.
AIs?
Yeah.
Nice.
We took those out in the woods on one of our excursions. They were helping us with information.
I like it.
Another one, and this one, Karen, step in.
Max, I saw that you wrote a poem, and it was pretty impressive, actually.
Yeah.
It was silly.
I was like, how'd you come up with that?
It's
He's
silly.
like, I was just thinking it, and then I thought of it. I was like,
It was.
okay.
It's funny that you said it's silly because when I read it, I was like, "This is serious."
Right. So,
What do you got there?
right. So, skip through this part. It's oh wait, no, let me just read it.
Yeah,
The
read it.
first page says all other stuff because that's actually a book, a mini book. So then
Okay.
the chocolate resources,
He's telling you the words on the page.
math. What? the the most cool stuff, all about gooey eggs,
All about gooey eggs. Okay.
Great Book of Zombies,
Can I?
and fantasy.
I'd like to read about all about gooey eggs, please.
Well, there's nothing in there yet. I haven't had anyone to put anything in.
Those are just the chapters.
Yeah.
Okay, could you give me like an idea about all about gooey eggs?
Well, that's for technical distributors to help me fill up this book, make it overflowing with pages.
Okay.
Here, let me show you the poem. Here, I got it right here on my
Oh yes. Okay. I see through all moves, though I am very what's that word?
I am the very
Embodiment of chess.
Embodiment of chess itself, of never ending pawns. It's so cool. It's such a cool poem, Max. Man, I don't think I was writing poems at 7 years old. I was not. And definitely not that good.
It's just so
It's-
random. He's like, hey, look, I wrote a poem. I was like, that's cool.
I was gonna hate chess.
Where'd you get the idea to write a poem?
Nowhere.
Nowhere.
Hey, Max.
Man.
Okay, so Katie said you could talk about the cows and then also New Year's. What
Yeah.
would you like to share about any of that?
You know what? We go to do the counseling, Katie, and then I love getting lost in the alfalfa barn.
Explain all that because they don't have context.
Like
Yeah,
like
tell me.
like so we have an alfalfa barn, and I love like just sitting in there and getting lost in my mind.
You know, so I've seen some videos of you and Katie getting what's the little baby Sugar? Is that her name? Yeah. I see you guys like sometimes corralling Sugar and like you guys are out there at night. Sometimes you're like really bundled up. I see Duchess. Like, tell me about that. What are you guys doing?
Uh, we're chasing Duchess and Sugarin. When Duchess is done eating, we chase her out, and then Sugar's left alone because we don't want Sugar to get the milk.
I see. Okay. So do you guys do that every night?
Not every, because sometimes the day after we won't milk.
Okay.
Only on days we don't milk that you don't do it.
No,
Gotcha.
definitely.
Cool.
Gotcha.
Because when she'll drink all the milk otherwise.
Yeah.
What
So,
did you
so you
say
like
about-
I plan to have 2,000 pounds of paper airplanes.
2,000 pounds of paper airplanes?
1 ton.
1 ton?
Okay, all right. So 1 ton of paper airplanes for why? What why?
So that when people come for the event, they'll be able to play with them all.
I like that idea.
Of tons. I actually plan to have that, but by the end of my life, I want to have 3,000 tons.
3,000 tons? Okay, how many pounds would that be? 3,000 tons.
That's 2,000 times 3,000 pounds.
Yeah.
And you calculate that.
What would that be?
I'm going to use the calculator.
You can do it.
Okay.
You do,
You do it in your head.
You
I
do
know
it.
you can.
I don't know. You do it first.
How many zeros?
You do it.
Well, I already know the answer.
Do it. Tell me.
I also know the answer.
What is it?
What do
Well,
think
you
it is?
tell me. How many zeros?
No one's impressed if we know it.
You better tell
Although I
us.
bet most adults would probably have to think for a bit.
You're right.
Dun, 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 dun. How many zeros is 1,000?
3.
So 6,000, or sorry, 2,000 times 3,000 would be
5,000.
what?
That's plus.
You said that's plus.
That's plus. Yeah.
I just twisted the X. The X, but then you could twist it to make a plus.
That's right. That's right. It's funny. Sometimes the faces that you make, Max, remind me so much of Cam. Yeah, you're pretty funny too, Max. And you're pretty fun to hang out with. And you're pretty amazing. And hey, Max.
Chris?
Yeah.
Why don't we stop at 11:10 because we only have 11 minutes in while we only have 1 minute now.
How about
So-
this? How about this? We'll stop now, and then you and I can continue chat.
Right.
We're just gonna stop the live and everything.
Yeah, all right.
So you want to say Happy New Year to everybody?
Happy New Year, everybody who's WATCHINGPHIS. And also, Valley Casabas.
Maria
Sign off. Awesome. All right. We'll see everybody next year. Bye.
Bye.
Well, bye. We're not. Well. Oh, well.